Hey, welcome back. Day 5 of our 8 days through the book of 2 Samuel. Today we read of the very sad consequences of David's sin with Bathsheba and murdering her husband Uriah. These consequences unfolding now in the life of David. One of the things that Nathan had said to David when he confronted him after the sin was that God says that the sword will never depart from your house. Your house, David, now will be continually filled with strife and bloodshed. And of course, this is what we see now in this whole strange, weird, perverted affair of one of David's sons named Amnon raping one of David's daughters from another woman. So these were now half brother and sister. Amnon rapes Tamar, his sister, and then Tamar's full brother, Absalom, waits 2 years, but then he murders Amnon as revenge for what he did to his sister. And then Absalom flees from the kingdom because he's now guilty of murder. And David in all of this just seems impotent. He's just lost his edge. He's lost his ability to deal with sin. Something happened to him, I believe, when he did that thing with Bathsheba and Uriah. It robbed him of his moral fortitude and his quickness to deal with sin. And of course, in all of this, it is the prophecy of Nathan being unfolded. He has this strife, he has this bloodshed all in David's household itself. So Absalom, as you know, if you've read the verses, he eventually does come back through the contrivance of Joab, the general. But when Absalom is back, he's dissatisfied. He is seeing his father become equivocal and losing his strength, and he now wants to rise to the throne. Of course, there's still many other brothers around, but Absalom wants the throne. And so he begins to plan a coup, which gathers momentum through the reading that we were doing today, to the point where David hears about this and he realizes actually a war is imminent between himself and his own son. And so David chooses to flee Jerusalem. And they are crossing the brook Kidron to leave Jerusalem. And it is there that I want to pick the story up and read to you 2 accounts of interactions David has. So let's begin. This is both chapter 15. The first one is verse 18 and 19. It says, "Then all his servants passed before him, and all the Cherethites and the Pelethites and the Gittites, 600 men who had followed him from Gath, passed before the king." So remember, Gath was where David had been before he came to the throne, in the land of the Philistines. So these were men who'd been with him for many, many years, and they were faithful to him. So when he left Jerusalem, fleeing, they didn't stay in their homes and just join the next guy. They said, "No, we're going to come with you." These were faithful. And one of them was a guy called Ittai the Gittite. So the next verse says, "Then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, 'Why are you also going with us? Return and remain with the king,'" the new king, his son Absalom, "for you are a foreigner and an exile from your own place." And of course, Ittai refuses to do that. He says, "No, I'm coming with you." But, okay, let me not steal my thunder, but that's the first thing I want to comment on, how David is gracious to Ittai. And he says, "You don't have to come with me. I know you love me. I know you're supporting me. But it's as if, you're not one of my people. You're not an Israelite. You don't have to come and bear this cross with me. You can go back." And then the second verse I want to get to is just a little bit further down, when Zadok the priest with Abiathar, there were 2 priests at the time, it seems 2 high priests, they came and they were bearing the ark. They had decided of their own will, we're going to go get the ark of God out of the tabernacle, and we're going to carry it with David. We're going to go with him, and we're bringing the ark with us. Now, if you remember a previous devotional, you'll remember how a man like Saul would have insisted upon that, because he had the superstitious view of what the ark could do. That if I've got the ark with me, it doesn't matter what state my heart is in, but as long as the ark's with me, then everything will be fine. God will be with me. And so we read from verse 24, there was Zadok also and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. Then the king said to Zadok, carry the ark of God back into the city. If I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me back and show me both it and his dwelling place. So David sends the ark back into Jerusalem. And in these two acts, in his asking Ittai to go back, not depending on the men who had been his army, his closest armor bearers for the last however many years, the men who he had fought alongside, many of them had saved his life through the years, and he had saved many of their lives. These were brothers in arms. If he wanted anyone with him, now that a battle was coming, it would have been Ittai the Gittite and those men who'd been with him since the time of Gath. And yet, he sends Ittai back and he says, go back to Jerusalem. You don't have to follow me here. And then the ark, when the ark comes, Saul would have loved the ark to have been there, but what does David do? He says, take the ark back. You don't have to carry the ark. I don't know where I'm going. If God is merciful to me, he'll bring me back. In all this, we see David's complete lack of two things: a reliance on men for his safety and for his future. He didn't rely on men. And second of all, a complete lack of superstition, as if having the ark with him is going to save him. David knew that all this was God's doing. He remembers the words of Nathan. He knew that part of this was discipline and the consequences of his sin. And that the only thing that would see him through all of this would be finding favor in the eyes of the Lord. David knew the only thing that's going to save me here is the favor of God, the kindness and goodness of God. Not my friends, not the ark and some religious superstition, but the favor and kindness of my God. That's what will get me through all of this. It is good at times to send away all that we have trusted in and depend solely on the grace of the Lord our God. And it is even appropriate at times, and if you don't like the word appropriate, then just use the word acceptable. It is even acceptable at times for you not to be able even to pray anymore. As David is not praying, he has completely relinquished his future into the hands of God. He doesn't even pray. He just says, if the Lord finds favor with me, then I will return. It is good at times to even not be able to pray, but simply relinquish in your heart your entire future to the kindness of the Lord. There is a time to pray, and then there is a time simply to trust. And of course, the quintessential moment in this category, when it is no longer time to depend on people and it is no longer time even to pray. The quintessential moment in our lives that fits into that category is the moment of our death. You don't want to get to your deathbed, my friend, and suddenly have to be relying on people, even doctors. There may come a point in your life where you know it is the end. And where relying on people and relying on doctors and on family members will not help you. And where you can no longer even pray any last-minute prayers and suddenly be seeking to make your peace with God. When you get to your deathbed, my friend, you want to have a deep-seated knowledge that you are covered by the grace and kindness of God through your faith in His Son, Jesus Christ, that you have been cleansed of your sin and that you are at peace with God, so that you no longer need to depend on people and you no longer even need to pray, but that you can lie there and pass into the next life with peace in your heart. It is appropriate at times to simply relinquish yourself to the kindness of God. And I hope, my friend, that when you reach the day of your death, that is the state you will find yourself in. Have you made your peace with God? You don't want to be rushing around and trying to get doctors to save you when it is now too late. and you certainly don't want to have some priest and Christian friend visit you to try to calm you down because you have no peace with God, or try to cool your boiling conscience. Now, when that day comes, you already want to have major peace with God so that you can lie there and know, if I do pass away tonight, the goodness of God will follow me, and I will be with him in paradise. Now, if you're not sure that that is you, then don't delay, my friend. Make your peace with God today. Call upon the Lord Jesus Christ, and you will be saved. And if you do that now, then you get the double benefit of not just dying with the Lord Jesus Christ, but of living with him too. I'll see you tomorrow.